j'ai du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire.
Multiple outlets are now reporting, and NBC News has confirmed, that Russia secretly offered bounties to Afghan militants to kill U.S. troops, and American intelligence officials have known about it for months. Intelligence officials told the New York Times and the AP that President Trump was briefed about the situation. The president denies that he knew anything about it. At least one troop death resulted from the Russian bounties, according to the Times and the Washington Post. Trump has explicitly gone after a country like, say, Iran for this kind of behavior, warning Iran just a few months ago against using its proxy forces to attack American troops. But when it comes to his friend, Vladimir Putin, the president has nothing but smiles and warm conversations and invitations to join the G7. It's the kind of story where the ads just kind of write themselves.
Putin pays the Taliban cash to slaughter our men and women in uniform. And Trump is silent, weak, controlled. Instead of condemnation, he insists Russia be treated as our equal. Instead of retaliation, he invites Putin to America. When Trump tells you he stands by the troops, he's right. Just not our troops.
Joining me now for more on this story, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California. He, of course, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. I want to start first, Congressman, with obviously you can't get into anything classified, but just how much this jives with what you know, or your assessment of the sort of contours of the overall story as they've been told in the press.
Well, you're right. I can't get into any classified information, but, look, the Russians and Putin in particular view the world in zero-sum terms. Anything that helps the United States is bad for Russia and vice versa. They have nothing but malevolent intent towards the United States. I think that also concerns our troops wherever they're stationed. And so we need to get to the bottom of these reports. I'm going to be briefed at the White House tomorrow. I'm asking that my entire committee be briefed by the intel agencies, and indeed the Speaker wants the whole House briefed, as is perfectly appropriate. But is this another situation where the President either was told and just rejects it, or his people are too scared to tell him because it contradicts this narrative of Vladimir Putin being his buddy? I watched the interview with Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, where he not only denied it, but he used profanity to deny it. And you know how that impresses Donald Trump when someone denies something strongly. After all, in Helsinki, when he was choosing between what his intelligence agencies were telling him and what Vladimir Putin was telling him, he made a particular point about talking about how strong Putin's denials were, as if that's somehow a good index of the truth. So we need to know, was the president informed about this? Were options presented to the president about this? Or are they simply afraid to present the president with anything he doesn't want to hear?
There was a strange briefing that happened today, of course, that you weren't included in. The White House briefed 8 House Republicans on the intel. Democrats are scheduled tomorrow. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe this is fairly standard operating procedure for this kind of thing, but I can't recall something like that. What is going on there?
It's not standard operating procedure. At least it certainly shouldn't be. Those briefings should be done on a bipartisan basis. Now, I did have some communication from the White House today, and I expect tomorrow we will get a briefing of some of the Democratic national security chairs. But it really ought to be done in a nonpartisan way with both parties represented. It's important, frankly, that we hear the same information. That's why, these briefings, we try to do these all on a bipartisan basis in our committee. At the moment, the Republicans are boycotting the briefings that we are doing. But it's really, beneficial, frankly, to make sure that neither party is getting a different take from either intelligence leaders or the White House.
Wait, the Republicans are boycotting the briefings in your committee right now?
They have been, yes, and we're not quite sure why. They don't have much of an explanation for it, but we've had important briefings on national security issues. We have another one coming up this week, and for whatever reason, they've decided en masse they're not going to attend, and so they're ignoring the work of the committee.
Wait a second. A boycott doesn't work unless you articulate the reason for your boycott so that the people you're boycotting can concede to your demands. What you're saying is they're boycotting your committee briefings but not telling you why?
Yes, we've got no explanation. Now, I saw one of the members try to explain that they don't think that it's secure enough, but these briefings are unclassified material. In fact, some of these briefings are open hearings, and they're still not even attending even the open hearings for the public. So I'm not sure how to explain it. I think it's very childish. But the more fundamental point, whether it's the work of our committee or it's a briefing from the White House, these really ought to be done on a nonpartisan basis so that all the members are operating from good information.
What is the next step here? If there's two pressing matters here, right? Like, did the president know about this, his administration know about this, and do nothing? And in fact, as Senator Murphy said, essentially give a green light to bounties on the heads of American servicemen and women. And also, what to be done now if in fact that has happened, and what the implications of that are? What is your feeling about that?
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to get an explanation, a briefing from the intelligence community leadership. What do they know these allegations? What kind of confidence do they have in what they may or may not know about these allegations? And have there been policy debates within the administration about what they're planning to do if they're going to sit on their hands because this president can't stand up to Vladimir Putin? Congress needs to take steps to protect our troops and to protect our national interest. We have seen time and time again this president put his own personal interest above those of the nation. This may be another example of the president doing that, or it may be another example of intelligence community or other leadership simply afraid to confront the president. We've already seen how there's a reluctance to brief the president on Russian interference in our election. He doesn't want to hear it. He thinks it's all a hoax. Is this an extension of that denial of reality by the president?
It is Tuesday, the 30th of June of 2020, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English Bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. And our daily special is Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays, a small, scant dash, a mere pinch of smoked hot Hungarian paprika will make all the difference in the world, and it always does, always has, and it always will. Okay, well, I'm a little peeved today because I have no patience for people making jokes about U.S. troops being killed while under the bounty from Vlad. Oh, it's all a hoax. Fuck you. Excuse my French this early in the show. But like I said, I have no patience for it. So, people come into my timeline, who have come into my timeline before trying to stir up shit, I'm not gonna banter back and forth. Alright? Not on this. Either, I'll say it, you toe the line on the fact that this president has done diddly and continues to do diddly, as well as the Vichy collaborating GOP. Where is their outrage? I don't care if it's happening or not. How about just saying, no one should be ordering hits on U.S. troops or anybody. That's so easy to say, and they will not say it, and I want to know why, because we already know. It's rhetorical, isn't it? We know why. Are there two Americas? I posited that question in social media. Are there two Americas? Well, when liberals are the loudest voices over the killing of U.S. troops under Vladian bounties, and the knee-jerk reaction of the GOP is to basically call it a hoax like wearing a mask, that's all you need to know about two Americas. I don't want to hear about how they care for the troops. It's all been mouth service all these decades, and we knew it, and we mentioned it. We yelled it from the mountaintop, and no one cared. But we knew. It was all a carnival barker. It was the guy outside the strip club trying to entice guys to come in. Come on in. You'll see things you've never seen before. Oh, I don't know. I think I've seen it all. Now I got to pay for, 800,000 markup on a glass of shitty champagne, too. It's not even real. Geez, come on. Sparkling something. So this is the world we live in. A land of strip clubs and carnival barkers, and that was supposed to, this American carnage stops right here and right now? What? No, it got ramped up. We didn't really have the carnage that this guy talked about. What? The carnage of getting health care for tens of millions of American citizens? Yeah, that's carnage. Look at the carnage we have now. Is it new that there have been bounties offered to warlords and theaters of war acting as proxies to take out the enemy? Of course there has been. But we don't have to like it. Anyway, there's precedent for it. When it's made public, the sane person, the person with any moral compass, would immediately come out and say, don't be putting bounties on our guys' heads and gals. And because, I don't know, you've done it before and you've kind of effed around with us before, we're just going to have to confiscate that piece of property that Obama confiscated that Trump gave back. How about a little asset forfeiture here, huh? Another question I'm kind of confused about, okay? You've got bounties on U.S. soldiers. You have an edict to stop testing for COVID. And Ivanka got a patent on body bags. Is there a coincidence there? Is it just me kind of grabbing stuff out of the air and putting them together and saying, is there a coincidence there? Damn right it is. These are the kind of questions that keep me awake at night, and at some point I'm able to take an 8-count deep breath, calm my soul, and get some proper sleep, whatever that means. Proper? We don't know what proper is anymore. So, we have a crisis of profound proportions. We're way past Richard Nixon calling up the North Vietnamese and saying, hey, hold off on those Paris peace talks. On the other hand, you might say that we're not even approaching that yet, because how many U.S. soldiers and our friends died from 1968 until 1972 and beyond? Plus, we had a secret war in Cambodia going on at the same time that Nixon was running. So have we met the proportional deaths yet? I hope not. We better not. Damn right we better not. But I don't think, as far as I know, Nixon wasn't really cutting any deals with Mao. And, who was the guy at the time? Wasn't Brezhnev, was it? Regardless, or Ho Chi Minh. He wasn't cutting deals with any of those guys for a hotel in the future. Is that all it took for Trump to sell out America? The promise of a hotel in Moscow? Is that all it took? I keep telling and have been telling everybody from way back, even when around the time that he married Ivana, because I had the question in my head at that time, what if this guy turns out to be a Russian mole? What if he turns out to be like, I don't know, a Moscowian candidate, like the Manchurian candidate? We saw the Manchurian candidate, right? Well, that was because it was North Vietnamese. And they're kind of scary, because they got, Asian eyes. Russia's a little bit more nondescript for the most part. So you can't really call it Manchurian. Siberian candidate. Let's call it the Siberian candidate. That has the proper alliteration and consonants. It does indeed. So I thought way back then, what if he was a Siberian candidate? What if he won, especially after the story started floating that Ivana's dad worked for the KGB. Yeah, I know he was Czech, but still, he was a KGB guy. So it kind of made me wonder. Then you had the little interlude with the gal from Colorado, right? And then in which Tiffany came out. Something happened from there. And anyway, then when he got with Melania, I'm like, oh, kind of upgraded the handlers, haven't they? Yes, they have. And here we are. A guy who wants to give Vlad a seat back on the G7 to make it a G8 again. And all the rest of the country's going, no, because they knew. See, this is how it's corroborated. It's so bad that the Brits knew about it. Today, Canada is being pilloried by Vlad for election interference because they signed on with 5 other countries supporting LGBTQ rights. And there's a vote in Russia right now to basically, put the knee on the throat of anybody who happens to be LGBTQ and make it a law. And so Canada signing on to that has now put them in the crosshairs of Vlad and his bounties. He is brazenly putting it right in our faces. Canada made quite a strong statement about it, but Trump hasn't. And we know why. We give the rhetorical question, and I don't know why. Yes, we do. We know exactly why. Because Trump owes. And whatever it is that he owes, it also probably includes the very air that he breathes, or the ability to breathe the air. With or without help from an electrical device, that gets plugged in. So he's got that hanging over his head, which means that we have it hanging over our head. And we thought Flynn was having a hard time maybe being influenced by a hostile foreign power. And maybe it is true that intelligence did not want to give Trump this specific intel, because he would have called Vlad and said, I know where these guys are. What's my cut? Can I get a finder's fee on this? I mean, this is the kind of reasoning Trump would go through. He's not angry about U.S. soldiers being killed with bounties on their head. Somebody's coming into his territory. He needs to dip his beak, and he wants a little bit of the action. How much is he going to get a finder's fee for telling Vlad? Because we're not talking about nondescript coalition forces. We're talking about individuals identified by Vlad that he wants dead. That's what we're talking about when we talk about bounties. We're not talking about cutting the ear off to prove that you killed somebody, then you get to keep the ear and make a necklace out of it. Yeah, that happens. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about individuals who have bounties. It's sort of like a wanted poster. So yeah, the Australians are kind of pissed. The Brits are kind of pissed. There's a lot of people kind of pissed. So don't tell me it's a hoax. Don't tell me that this is to, factions trying to diminish the Taliban peace talks. Hell yes, it is. Of course it all is. Damn it. But when you start messing around with U.S. troops being killed and making light of it, that's where I draw the line. That's where I hope these Vichy collaborators, figuratively, are hunted down with a knee to their throat, damn it. I'm not saying, let's shore their hair. These Vichys. That's not what I'm talking about. But there has to be a reckoning. And I have no patience for this kind of behavior in a theater of war or any time. It's mobsters. These are mobsters. And I don't like mobsters, and I sure as hell don't like mobsters running governments. Because this is what happens. Why are people so afraid he's going to blow up? So effing what? Grow some backbone. Jeez. All right. Everybody's afraid. But it's the guys that wear masks that are living in fear. Yeah, that's what it is. Still want to know. Bounties on U.S. soldiers and coalition forces in general. I mean, individuals. Let's make that clear. No more testing for COVID. He's trying to cut down all the testing, and we know what that means. And Ivanka has the patent on body bags. I don't know. If I presented this as a screenplay, if I pitched this, not even having my grandson as a beard, because, old guys like us actually need to have young people pitch this now, because an old guy like me going in, I won't even get through the door anymore without an agent. Not even now reading, so I got to have a beard. But even with that beard pitching the story, it would be so outlandishly stupid. They couldn't even make a weird wacko comedy out of it that the North Koreans will say, we don't want that going out there, so we're going to hack Sony. Nope, won't even get that far. What's on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Well, the Vichy Collaborators of the GOP are boycotting the House intelligence briefings en masse on the Russia bounties. En masse. Is it a head in the sand type of, hear no evil type of behavior? I wonder. My snoozing sous chef is snoozing very loudly, as you can tell. On the rest of the menu, a Federalist Society 3-judge appeals court panel ruled the GOP can restrict the vote to their heart's content. Indeed, they can in Wisconsin. Do it. Google removed ads that charged large fees for free voter information, and then they harvested user data because you are the product and you pay for it. And GOP-controlled states reversed their openings and are now requiring masks in public, and their GOP public doesn't like it one bit because they were primed, and now they reap the whirlwind. They will. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where former French Prime Minister Francois Fillon and his wife were found guilty of fraud. Oh, remember? He was leading in all the polls, and then these allegations of fraud surfaced, and he went directly to third place, and Macron won. Yeah, that's like a long time ago. And Interpol rejected an Iranian arrest warrant for Donald Trump. Darn. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Failed to mention that the great legendary icon Carl Reiner passed this morning. Failed to mention that in the beginning of the show, but I'm mentioning it now because it needs to be mentioned. Sad passing. He was tweeting right up to the end too, and he had some great things to say, and always had. And we owe really a lot of the great television and movies to Carl Reiner. What a great writer, great actor, great comedian, and a voice for a reasoned representative democracy indeed. If you go to the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, to the rightish of the page is our chat room link, and that is monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. To the leftish of the chat room link at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com is our site for our Patreon page. And if you could become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, you could maybe even send us the amount of money that you would spend once a month on a espresso type coffee drink, for instance. Wow, I just picked that right out of the thin air. And with that, we are able to pay our bills and maybe even make a really good radio sound booth so that the snoozing sous chef snoozing doesn't snooze so loud that it not only interferes in the microphone but upsets my train of thought. I love my dog so much. Any other dog, I'd probably put him out in the hallway, but I can't with this fellow. Anyway, if you could send us just an espresso-type coffee drink, the funds for that once a month, we are able to stretch our dollars. And all kidding aside, we are in need of it, especially now, and I know it's tough. Thank you to those who have continued in allowing us to fulfill our civic duty. Your generosity is well noted. And tell your friends. All right. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio, do so at Netroots Radio. Thank you, Tom, for taking care of that. Thank you. And I, of course, take care of at Justice Putnam, and I post the show notes and links diary. Are they still called diaries? Can we still call them diaries? I will always call them diaries. That's how you can tell who we are. Well, I post that about 10 minutes before showtime, get that linked up on social media, which Twitter is one part of, and I have to have Kelly or somebody post it on Facebook, because F Facebook. Those guys, what's up with them? Yeah, I like how they're getting rid of hate speech, and I got somehow my post correcting about Aunt Jemima was considered hate speech because some right-wing racist hated it. Man, and I get kicked off, and those racists get to stay. Okay, that's taking care of business, literally. So anyway. Find the show notes and links diary posted on the social media platform of your choice, just probably not Facebook for a while. At least 30 days, and I figure I'm going to get more tagged on as soon as I serve the 30 days, because that's how they do it. You get 60 days, and, hey, next thing you know, the whole year's gone, and why are you on Facebook to begin with? It's a long story. I'll tell you later. If you would like to follow the show on Twitter, do so at Cookbook West. And pick up podcasts by way of Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes. Deezer. What is Deezer? I saw that. Okay, but if people are picking podcasts up on Deezer, so pick them up wherever you can find them. Thank you so much. All right, we better dive into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, because time is a-flying. And, I don't know. We do have a curated show. This is a salon. You can always read these articles at your heart's content. But here, let me present these to you anyway, and you can take them with your to-go bag. We don't call them doggy bags. These are gourmet tidbits, and they're, we love our dogs. Give them a little bit, but it's not going to help them. These are to-go bags, all right? Takeout doggy bags. Don't ever ask a chef for a doggy bag. Trust me, it won't go well, at least in the kitchen. They'll probably take it out on the poor snoozing sous chef. I hope not. Now they'll take it out of the dishwasher. That's how it always happens. How dare they? Todd Richmond of the Associated Press brings us this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A federal appeals court upheld a host of Republican-authored voting restrictions in Wisconsin yesterday, Monday, handing conservatives a significant win in a pair of lawsuits just months before residents in the battleground state cast their ballot for president. Wow, that's almost like a plan. Jeez. The 3-judge panel, all Republican appointees, and all Federalist Society judges, by the way, found that the state can restrict early voting hours and restored a requirement that people must live in a district for 28 days and not 10 before they can vote. The panel also said emailing and faxing absentee ballots is unconstitutional. Really? But, I don't know, declaring war by tweet is? Give me a break. The state's photo ID requirement for voters wasn't in question, although the panel did find that expired student IDs are acceptable at the polls and kept intact, an option that allows people to vote without an ID if they show an affidavit saying they tried to obtain one. Judge Frank Estabrook, who wrote the opinion, noted that the restrictions don't burden people in the state. Really? We'll see about that. Where voters still enjoy more ways to register, long poll hours on Election Day, and absentee voting options than in other states. Really now? I wonder how many polls are going to close before Election Day. That's the other way that they'll do it. Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald, a Republican who is running for Congress this fall, called the decision a win for fair elections. Now, remember, to the Republicans, a fair election is when you vote on a hackable voting machine and, collect a bunch of absentee ballots and fill in the blanks yourselves. That's what Republicans do. That's a fair election to them. A fair election to us is a fair election for all, but that's not the way that the GOP looks at it. So let's just make that clear. The ruling puts municipalities in every corner of Wisconsin closer to equal footing when it comes to early in-person voting, Fitzgerald said. I applaud the Seventh Circuit on this decision and look forward to moving on with this fall's election. Wow, they really think they can manipulate the votes like they did before. Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah, that's actually what happened in 2016. You think it was just some sort of weird electoral vote anomaly that they were able to change the hearts and minds of 70,000 voters over, a half a dozen counties across 3 states? You think it was just sort of like a influence campaign, so to speak? No, they actually went in and hacked the votes and changed vote totals. Let's be clear and let's stop pussyfooting around that fact. Please. And this is not some sort of birther BS. These are the facts, and they've been held back from us because, then we would lose confidence in our elections, which is the whole point, isn't it? Well, how you get confidence in your elections? By having fair paper ballot elections. We've been having mail-in votes in Oregon for over 20, almost going on 25 years now. You know what you can't do with mail-in ballots? Flip vote totals on a moment's notice. That's what you cannot do. To do it, it takes a bit of work, and when you do, it leaves a paper trail. It always does, and that's the way it was set up. So no wonder these guys don't want mail-in ballots, because you can't flip the vote total on a moment's notice. Jeez. GOP legislators said the changes were designed to create uniform rules statewide and combat voter fraud, although no one has shown any widespread fraud exists in the state. Liberal group One Wisconsin Institute challenged the restrictions in federal court in Madison. U.S. District Judge James Peterson found most of the restrictions unconstitutional in July of 2016, although he allowed the voter ID requirement to stand since the provision had withstood previous legal challenges. That same month, another federal judge, Lynn Edelman in Milwaukee, ruled in a separate lawsuit brought by the ACLU that state residents who lack proper photo ID could vote with an affidavit affirming their identity. Now, those decisions marked a big win for Democrats, who have long argued Republicans are using the photo ID law and other voting limitations to discriminate against the poor, racial minorities, and younger voters who are likely to vote for the Democrats. The Seventh Circuit panel heard Republicans' appeal in February of 2017, more than 3 years ago. Since then, there has been a wave of new lawsuits that resulted in extended registration and voting deadlines for Wisconsin's April 7th presidential primary and state Supreme Court election. Those cases are ongoing, and rulings could affect the rules for the November 3rd presidential election. Oh, you mean like an October surprise? Trump narrowly carried Wisconsin in 2016, and the state is again expected to play a pivotal role in his re-election bid this fall. And when you think of how many people live in Wisconsin and how many people live in the San Gabriel Valley of Southern California, and you find out, wow, there's a lot more people that live in the San Gabriel Valley than live in all of Wisconsin. But yeah, let's put the fate of the nation in the hands of a bunch of cheeseheads. Elizabeth Collaborators of Reuters brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. Google said it had removed ads for companies that charge people large fees to register to vote and harvest their data, which appeared when users searched for voter information. A Google spokeswoman told Reuters that the company's misrepresentation policy barred such ads, which were found by the nonprofit watchdog Tech Transparency Project when searching for terms such as register to vote, vote by mail, and where is my polling place. As in all major democracies, voters in the U.S. do not have to pay to register to vote. Tech Transparency said in a report on Monday that nearly a third of the more than 600 ads generated by its Google searches took users to sites that try to charge large fees for voter registration services, extract personal data for marketing purposes. Oh, really? Install deceptive browser extensions, or serve other misleading ads. And it took an outside group to find it because apparently Google, with all their tech might, didn't know it was happening, or did they? They were collecting money now, weren't they? Yes, they were. The report said the first ad in a Google search for register to vote directed users to a site from privacywall.org that charged $129 for same-day processing of voter registration. Privacy Wall CEO Jonathan Wu said in an email to Reuters that its service makes it easier for voters to register online without giving more data than is required, and that it does not share data for any purpose other than voter registration. Our goal is to create choice where none may exist. Yeah, in other words, we're going to find a product that we can make a bunch of money on, that everybody wants and everybody needs and everybody will pay if you can convince them. A Google spokeswoman said the company did not yet know how the ads had got through its approval process, which uses a combination of automated and manual review. Well, let me tell you how it works on Facebook. Oh, you already know? People are pulling ads, major corporations, and Zuckerberg lost $57 billion in a couple of days. No wonder they're banning people like me. And that's not just me either. There's a whole purge. The TTP reports some people may find it difficult to distinguish Google ads from other kinds of content because as of January, search ads on Google feature the same typeface and color scheme as organic search results. Social media companies and online platforms, including Facebook and Twitter, are under pressure to curb misinformation on their sites in the run-up to the U.S. presidential election in November. Except, I'll tell you on Facebook how it works. When you correct Donald Trump, you will be suspended. Tamara Alouche and Emily Schmall bring us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Arizona's Republican governor shut down bars, movie theaters, gyms, and water parks, and leaders in several states ordered residents to wear masks in public in a dramatic course reversal amid an alarming resurgence of coronavirus cases nationwide. Among those implementing the face-covering orders is the city of Jacksonville, Florida, where mask-averse Donald Trump plans to accept the GOP nomination in August. Now, we all know that Trump has refused to wear a mask during visits to states and businesses that require them because he's president and we're not. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey's order went into effect immediately and for at least 30 days. Ducey also ordered public schools to delay the start of classes until August 17th, at least. Most Arizona bars and nightclubs opened after the governor's stay-at-home and business closure orders were allowed to expire in mid-May. Arizona health officials reported 3,858 more confirmed coronavirus cases on Sunday, the most reported in a single day in the state so far, and the seventh time in the past 10 days that daily cases surpassed the 3,000 mark. Since the pandemic began, 74,500 cases and 1,588 deaths stemming from the virus have been reported in Arizona, and I need to tell you, folks, those are just the numbers that have been reported. Those numbers are much, much higher. Our expectation is that our numbers next week will be worse, Ducey said yesterday, Monday. Now, the state is not alone in its reversal. Places such as Texas and Florida, both GOP-controlled, and California are backtracking, closing beaches and bars, and in some cases, amid a resurgence of the virus. And I should make mention is that, especially the people in the GOP areas, they don't like it. They don't like it one bit, and they're going to let people know, and they are. Now, Democratic governors in Oregon and Kansas said they would require people to wear masks. Oregon Governor Kate Brown's order will require people to wear face coverings in indoor public places starting on Wednesday. Well, I guess maybe people have all decided to take off their masks until Wednesday because the jackboot Democratic governor just wants everybody safe. She's such a nanny. Such a nanny. Yeah, well, you know what? When I went into the store and I mentioned this, I was appalled by how many people were not wearing masks. You're going to wait until Wednesday? Now is your little little island of pleasure and freedom? Wear a mask. Care for your neighbor. Why is that so hard? All right, let's get to our break. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Scott Hirschberger. Climate change is altering the migration routes of animals worldwide. Here's a look at new research on how 2 species have been affected. First, mule deer. Every spring in Wyoming, vegetation first appears at lower altitudes before progressing up the mountainside. Migrating mule deer follow and forage on this green wave. But as a changing climate leads to more frequent and more severe droughts, the greenery is not as bountiful as it used to be. For her PhD research at the University of Wyoming, Ellen Akins tracked mule deer as they surfed the green wave.
The green up lasted across the landscape for about half as long in drought years in comparison to wet years, and also the order of green up along these routes were less sequential. So in essence, drought compresses and reshuffles the green wave and just makes it so that this foraging bonanza that deer depend on in their spring migration is really compressed in time.
And although the deer were able to keep up with the faster green wave, the nutritional value was lower, leaving the animals less prepared for the challenges of the year ahead. Meanwhile, in Europe, the population of Bewick's swans that spend the winter in the United Kingdom and the Netherlands is declining. But when researchers looked at the data more closely, they found an increase in the wintering population of swans in Germany. It turns out that since the 1970s, the swan's wintering habitat has shifted an average of 13 kilometers to the east each year.
What we think is that the swans like to spend their time in areas where it's 5 degrees Celsius, and this isotherm has shifted in the same rate as the swans shifted eastward. So that's a strong indication for us that the swans actually move with this temperature line.
Rasha Nauchen of the Netherlands Institute of Ecology. Her team also found that the swans were spending less time in their winter homes before flying back to the Russian tundra to breed. Neither the mule deer nor the Bewick's swan is endangered, but the findings have broader importance for our understanding of the conservation of migratory animals.
Because if you start thinking of protecting a certain plot of land, it's not just the current situation that is there. Nature is dynamic, and the species that are present now might not be present in 10 years' time, and not because we didn't protect it, but maybe because these species are actually dynamic in their ways. And we need to include this resilience and the dynamics of nature into our legislation and management.
Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Scott Hirschberger.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution, and you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage, because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. This day in labor history, the year was 1885. That was the day that streetcar workers went out on strike. The West Division Street Railroad Company had reduced the number of trips it made each day. The workers asked for a wage increase to make up for the loss of earnings. In response, management fired 15 union leaders. Outraged members of the city's labor movement rallied to the cause of the West Side Streetcarmen's Benevolent Association. Thousands of Chicagoans lined the company's tracks. Calls went out to revoke the company's charter. Mayor Harrison urged the company not to try and run their cars in the charged environment. But the company's management refused to listen. They demanded police protection to get their streetcars running. A police captain by the name of John Bonfield was assigned the task. Bristling with policemen, 10 streetcars rolled out into the crowd. Under Bonfield's orders, the police clubbed strikers and protesters along the tracks. When a group of bricklayers yelled "rats" at the passing cars, they were arrested. In all, 150 protesters went to jail that day. After 7 days, the strike ended in a compromise. The workers saw an increase in their wages, and all but 2 of the workers who had been fired got their jobs back. The action propelled Captain Bonfield's career as a strikebreaker. He became known as Captain Blackjack Bonfield. It was Captain Bonfield who led the police confrontation with workers at a rally the next year that sparked the Haymarket tragedy.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays, a small scant dash, a mere pinch of smoked hot Hungarian paprika will make all the difference in the world. And fair warning, consumers beware. Our chowders, every single one, not just the Tarrytown Chowder. Not just the Tarrytown Chowder. Not just the Tarrytown Chowder. But all the chowders here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy have roasted corn that has been soaked for quite a long time in some lime water with lime zest and lime juice. Ooh, soak it in there, husk and all. And then you roast that baby up, put those kernels, shave them off the ear, put them in the chowder, and what a lovely dish it is. Try it. You'll like it. All right. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Pretty much nearly the same temps as we had yesterday, upper 70s, low 80s. Some clouds this morning will give way to generally sunny skies in the afternoon. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And tomorrow, a small chance of rain. Tonight, a small chance of rain. Very small. Well, will be clear to partly cloudy, and lows will be in the mid-50s. Winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. With that small chance of rain, I would say a sprinkle, maybe just from mist. In the morning, some clouds will be in the morning and give way to mainly sunny skies in the afternoon. And highs will be in the upper 70s, low 80s, winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Now, here's some bad news, and I presaged it yesterday when we gave the confirmed coronavirus report in Jackson County of Southern Oregon. We have now jumped 10 cases overnight from 99 to 109. And deaths continue to be not reported for some reason. Barometric pressure is holding steady at 30.08 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles, and relative humidity here in the Rogue Valley is at 86%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. London is 63 and cloudy. Paris is 72 and cloudy. Rome is 86 and sunny. Wouldn't it be great to go to Rome? No, it wouldn't. You don't want to catch coronavirus. They're going to have another spike there. They keep telling everybody they will, and they keep having them. Kyiv is 75 and mostly cloudy. Kabul is 70 with a light rain shower. Hong Kong is 81 and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 80 degrees and cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 53 and clear. San Francisco, California is 56 and sunny. And New York is 76 degrees Fahrenheit and cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. Sylvie Corbet and Nicolas Beaumontagne of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Former French Prime Minister Francois Fillon was found guilty yesterday, Monday, in a fraud case of having used public funds to pay his wife and children more than $1.13 million U.S. since 1998 for work they never performed. The couple's lawyers immediately appealed the verdict from the Paris court. Fillon, age 66, was sentenced to 5 years in prison, 3 of which were suspended, and a $423,000 U.S. fine. That's just in U.S. dollars. He's being fined in Paris, by the way. He is also banned from seeking elected office for 10 years, and he remains free pending appeal. His 64-year-old wife, Penelope, was found guilty as an accomplice. She was given a 3-year suspended sentence and fined the same amount. In addition, the couple was requested to reimburse the National Assembly more than €1 million that correspond to the salaries and payroll charges they were paid. The penalty is suspended pending appeal.
Je te donne, c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers, c'est tout.
Nasser Karimi of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Iran issued an arrest warrant and asked Interpol for help in detaining Trump and dozens of others it believes carried out the U.S. drone strike that killed a top Iranian general in Baghdad. Interpol later said it would not consider Iran's request, meaning Trump faces no danger of arrest. Darn it! However, the charges underscore the heightened tensions between Iran and the U.S. since Trump unilaterally withdrew America from Tehran's nuclear deal with world powers. Tehran prosecutor Al-Kashimar said Trump and 35 others whom Iran accuses of involvement in the January 3rd strike that killed General Soleimani in Baghdad face murder and terrorism charges. Al-Qasemi did not identify anyone else other than Trump, but stressed that Iran would continue to pursue his prosecution even after his presidency ends. Well, get in line. He's going to serve his time in Leavenworth first, and then he's going to be frog-marched to The Hague and serve his time there, and then we'll consider letting Iran, draw up some charges, okay? They probably do. All right, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know that Netroots Radio will broadcast on, and we're going to meet up tomorrow for Smothered Benedict Wednesdays, so do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we'll meet up here tomorrow right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.